Welcome to the Coaches Show. Thanks for clicking in this week. I'm Adam Howe, your host, and along with me, like he always is every week, the Wildcat head football coach, Ryan Boyer. Coach, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me.
So this Coaches Show is sponsored by State Farm Insurance, Susie Broderson, Shelter Insurance, Leanne Beeman, Community National Bank and Trust, J&D Pharmacy, Pitts Homes, and Tracy Spry and Associates CPA. And you'd think I have all the sponsors down by week 10, but I don't. I still have to look at my notes. So again, week 10, Wildcats are going to kick off the first round of Class 2 District 5 play this week. They will take on the El Dorado Springs Bulldogs. That's the 7 seed. Wildcats took the 2 after a win last week. That was over Buffalo. The Wildcats moved to 7-2, 3-1 in the conference. Buffalo fell to 5-4 and 2-2 in the OHC. That final 61-24 in favor of the Wildcats. So going back to the first game of that final third of the season, Wildcats dropped a tough one on the road at Butler, and we're just going to forget that one. So we forgot Lafayette County a long time ago. We forget that one. So they then bounced back with a solid win against Skyline at home. That evened things out at 1-1. And then last week on the road in a game with conference as well as district implications, your team knew what was at stake, and they went out and took care of business. They secured a share of the OHC title with Butler. They nailed down that number 2 seed, only behind Lamar. Is that a testament to how disciplined and focused these guys are right now? And if so, that must be a good feeling as a staff and as a team entering this first round this week.
Oh, without a doubt. You know, one thing that we emphasized was, we're finally getting about everybody back healthy. As healthy as you can be, but and those guys have done such a great job, especially up front with our line, filling in, playing different roles. We kind of look back as a staff to every week of the season, and I don't know if we've had the same mix and match ever. And so it was neat to see that, get everybody back, and it's good because you get those other guys the playing experience, so when they do need to pop in, they can. And then just coming ready to play. That's a big thing that we emphasize, especially after how we performed or didn't perform at Butler. Was, guys, you got to be ready. Like we talked last week, the neat deal about this last game was you had playoff implications. You had the conference title on the line, and this credit to my coaching staff, to our senior leaders, the whole team. I mean, they had a great week of practice. And we stressed it. Bus ride down pregame and in all phases, make sure you're ready to go. And hands down, the best, they came out ready to go all year.
And I would say that probably people don't realize that Buffalo actually knocked off Butler.
Yeah. One
of their conference wins was against the Bears.
Yeah.
But probably people may not realize, if they've not been out to many games, just how spectacular that performance and that win was.
It was neat. Told the kids that's a fun thing to be a part of, and like you said, Buffalo's no slouch at all. That quarterback they have, he's track champion in the 100.
And we hope he finally graduates.
Yes, yeah. It's not going to break our heart to see him go, but it's some of the things they do. It's it's very unconventional, and so and you saw that early on where they were disciplined, and then boom, he breaks one big out the back, and just some little things there, and so yeah, it was. It was great. It was great to see how it all came together, and then that's something we talked about on Monday. Reflecting back was, we went through that week of preparation from Monday all the way till kickoff, and even at halftime, making some subtle adjustments and some in-game adjustments, but just staying true to who we are.
Right. So looking at that game, Wildcats got on the board first, 7-0 on a 4-yard touchdown run by Whitaker. James came on and hit the PAT to make it the 7-0. But Buffalo bounced back. They answered quick. You're talking a minute and 25 seconds later. They were up 8-7 after a 45-yard touchdown run by that quarterback, Brett Schwanke, and then they converted on a 2-point conversion by, I believe his name's Riley Phillips. Mm-hmm. Then the Wildcats, exactly 1 minute later, so a lot of scoring early, exactly 1 minute later, had a 52-yard touchdown run by Tayton. The extra point again good, and Wildcats go up 14-8, and then really didn't look back from there. Oliver Robertson for the defense, he came up with a fumble recovery there, a little over 4 minutes left to go, and then Wildcats scored a few plays later on a 5-yard touchdown run by Bagley that made the score 21-8 at the end of the first. And in my article this week, I said, well, that sounds like a really exciting first quarter. It doesn't get better than that, right? Oh, welcome to the second quarter.
Yeah.
So then Wildcats come out in the second quarter. They score at the 9:02 mark on a 4-yard touchdown run by Whitaker. Again, the James PAT good, and we get used to saying that now. So, that put them up 28-8. Then Schwanke breaks a big one, 45 or 65 yards this time. Makes it 28-16 after he also converted the 2-point conversion. So 28-16, and just looking there real quick, I'm not sure how many yards he finished with, but 110 yards right there on 2 carries.
He got a lot right out the gate.
And then Wildcats come back, a 29-yard touchdown pass from Tayton Boyer to Jace DePriest, and extra point was good again, 35-16 Wildcats. And then 42-16 after a 1-yard touchdown run by Bagley later. Under 30 seconds left to go in the game. You think that's good, except that on the next kickoff, not just a minute later, but we're talking about 12 seconds later, a 70-yard kickoff return by Phillips that made the halftime score 42-24. We've talked all along about in-game adjustments. Coach Miller and that defense obviously made them, because then they shut them down for the second half. So in the third, Wildcats get another touchdown run by Bagley. That's 31 yards. A 25-yard run by Bagley again. I believe that was his 4th for the night. We'll get to all that stuff here in just a minute. And then Jace DePriest comes up with an interception at the 4-minute mark, somewhere close to there. And then Wildcats cap the scoring on a 33-yard touchdown run by Gage Whitaker for the 61-24 final. So a lot of offense to talk about. We'll get some individual stats here in just a minute. But in that win over Buffalo, the Wildcats roll up 488 yards just on the ground. Tayton throws for 134 yards also. How good is this offense right now, and in particular that senior quarterback and Tayton and the senior running backs, Gage and Nick?
They're all clicking, and it's something that in our option attack, we stress carrying out your fakes. Everybody sees the end result of the run, but some of those big runs, especially coming from Tayton at the beginning, Nick and Gage do a great job. Tayton read it correctly. They carry out their fakes up front. Our guys are getting it done. And they're clicking on that. And then we always talk pass. It's hard to explain to an underclassman or a middle schooler as they move up to high school. It doesn't always look like it's there, but trust the path, trust your block, stay on that. And those guys do such a great job, and they just work so well with each other. And then in our pass game, everybody's settled in and understanding what works, what doesn't work, and when those things should come open. Coach Morrison's done a ton of work, him and Coach Parker, with staying in the pocket, and feeling that pressure, not bailing out so quick, and just going through your keys and reads. And it's been a process, and that's where we stress to the kids, just get better each week. Let's grow each week. It's not going to be perfect at the beginning, but this is, again, the time of year you want to be playing your best ball, and they weren't far off at Friday night. And
Coach Morrison, we talked about him, the offensive coordinator for the Wildcats. Who do you think, and this isn't on my sheets, who do you think scribbles more during the week? Do you think it's Coach Morrison, or is it Andy Reid of the Chiefs?
It'd be a close contest there. I don't know. It's neat, and it's a lot of fun. With our entire staff. It's something that we put the game plan together there and give our scouting reports on Monday at film. But like we tell our kids, guys, as we get into it, we see things, and like I said, we're scrapping some things, we're bringing some things back, we're seeing things develop. You don't want to say you're drawing up plays in the dirt, but there's times, and the neat part of this year and this group is they'll come to us and say, hey, this will work better than that, or of course they'll always come to us and say, hey, I got to play. But to that, it is neat to see, and and again, the best part about it is we're always trying to put the kids in the best position.
And as a coach, when they say, hey, I think I've got to play, I think as a coach you have to go,
Yeah.
Maybe it's not his play, but I may be able to work with it.
No, exactly. Yeah, like draw it up, walk me through it, and if they can back it a little bit, as long as they're not saying, hey, saw this on Sunday night, or Sunday or Saturday, so it is fun. It's a lot of fun.
And these stats are fun to talk about too. Against the Bison last Friday night, Wildcats rushed 45 times for 488 yards, like we mentioned. That is only an average of 10.84 yards per carry. 8 total touchdowns on the ground. Nick Bagley, the guy we usually talk about getting the tough yards between the tackles, a 15-yard night, a 40-yard night. Nick goes off, 12 rushes for 180 yards and 4 touchdowns, 15 yards per carry.
Yeah.
So then Tayton, 15 carries for 162 yards. That's 10.8 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. Gage Whitaker, he also runs for 100 yards even on just 14 rushes. He only averages 7.1 yards per carry. But then he gets a hat trick too, 3 touchdowns on the night. Jace DePriest also threw in 1 rush, and that was for 37 yards. That helps the averages too. Through the air, Tayton goes 5 for 5 for 134 yards. That's 26.8 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. But obviously not having to go to the air much when you're rushing for almost 500 yards on the ground. But through the air, those 5 catches for 134 yards, Jace DePriest has 2 of those. He's quickly become Tayton's favorite target, I think, through the air. 2 for 90, 45 yards per reception. He had the 1 touchdown. Nick had 2 catches for 40 yards, and then Garrett Ferguson hauled in the last one for a 4-yard completion. So the team total 622 total yards. And I'm going to throw this in there. We looked this up. Per mission, that is the 15th highest offensive output of all time. That'd be all classes.
Yeah. That's pretty neat.
488 yards rushing on the ground. That's tied for 31st most rushing yards in a game all time, all classes. So pretty, I don't know if you knew that or not, but it's just little fun stuff right there, right?
Yeah.
Special teams, Logan James, solid as can be. We've talked a ton about him, but he comes in, he is good on 7 PATs. He had 10 kickoffs too that totaled 385 yards. So, and then Tayton, of course, we've talked about, Wildcats obviously in a 61-point effort, not going to punt a lot. They did have 1, he had at 45 yards. So Tayton's got to be averaging over 40 yards a punt.
I think so.
Not his most favorite number to be proud of, but I'm sure he's okay with it. So, but I think James had 9 point after attempts. I think he was on the field to kick 9. One of those was blocked, and then there was 1 bad snap that kept Logan from going 9 for 9. So we failed on 2 of them. But we have to assume that he would have made all of those because he's so consistent.
Pretty consistent. Yeah.
But had he made all 9, that would have tied him for 3rd most PATs in a game all time. And 10 was that record for a really long time. That was held by, can you guess?
I do know this stat. I do.
It was John Daly, the PGA golfer.
Yep, from Elias High School.
So, of course, that one since then, that's been broken in the last few years, and I know it's now 11, but just some fun stuff there. So Wildcats, not concerned with records. We talked about that individual or team, but just some fun stuff for me to look up being in the media, right? So on the defensive side, solid nights all around, so nobody standing out with double-digit tackles, but Josh Harbath led the team with 6. Gage Whitaker had 5.5. Riley Taylor and Drake Merle both had 5 tackles for the Wildcats, and then Nick Bagley had 4. Oliver Robertson had a fumble recovery, and Jace DePriest had 1 interception. So a lot of good offense there to talk about. 61 points. Wildcats slip away, or not slip away. I mean, they roll through Buffalo, 61-24, and they will take on the El Dorado Springs Bulldogs in round 1 of Class 2 District 5. We'll be back to talk about that one right after this.
Owning a small business is kind of a big deal. State Farm agents can help you find the right insurance coverage at the right price.
Call State Farm agent Susie Broderson in Warsaw today.
And we're back for this week's Coaches Show. I'm Adam Howe again with Coach Ryan Bohr of the Wildcats. We're looking forward to that first round game. Wildcats hosting El Dorado Springs in the first round of Class 2 District 5 bracket. So El Dorado comes off of a loss at home last week. They lost to Fairgrove 30-15, and that Fairgrove team, a 5-4 team, familiar with them because we may see them here in another week.
Possibly.
So looking at that El Dorado Springs offense, and it's a little bit difficult because we did this just a month ago.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it and looking at film and stuff. A little bit different, not really a whole lot, and probably not a whole lot different because they're 1-8, so you don't fall to 1-8 probably by doing a whole lot of new stuff. But anyway, on that offense, it's really literally just a lot of everything. A little wing, a little ISO, a little base, a little option, but the only thing you don't see is a whole lot of pass attempts, really.
Right.
And number 4 is still their quarterback. He's still healthy. He's an athlete, likes the ball in his hands. We saw that a month ago.
Yeah.
And 28 is a good athlete, strong, runs hard. Have a couple wing guys, not much from receivers. Offensive line, they get some good push up front, but maybe don't get downfield as much as their coaching staff would probably like. So that Warsaw defense, the good thing is they've seen these guys before.
Yeah.
Now. So,
yeah.
And you're talking 4 weeks ago. That was back, I guess it was the homecoming game, I think.
It was.
But that was back week 6, September 30th. And in that game, the Bulldogs actually did a good job of sustaining their initial drive, and they even scored to take an early lead. So that, I think, if I remember right, they even ate up like a lot of that first quarter.
Yeah, it was I think it's a 9-minute drive, if I
Right.
remember correctly.
And so the defense has to expect them to play ball control, I have to assume. So what kind of wrinkles can we maybe expect to see from El Dorado, and how's the defense of the green and black counter any of that? It's got to be a little bit, to a staff, has to be a little bit scary, because the team's 1-8, they have nothing to lose.
Without a doubt, and you took the words right out of my mouth. That's something, again, when we met with the team at the beginning of the week, talking about this round, and just this round, said, obviously this is a familiar opponent, something that you can't buy into is what you've done in the past, and ignore what everybody else is probably going to tell you, So with that, something that was a challenge the first time we saw them, they run that triple option. That's hard to emulate with your scout team to that speed in the week. And so when they came out, ran that first drive, I forget how many plays that drive was, but
It was a lot.
yeah, but just making those adjustments kind of on the fly. And you see that a lot out of El Dorado. That opening drive, they typically go down and they've had success in that opening drive. And again, it's just, if you don't see it every week, used to you would see triple option all the time. We used to run it all the time, but you just don't. And so, once our defense got settled in, that was one of our defense's best showings of the season, really. And they were able to force turnovers and give our offense a short field. And so there's a lot of positives, but going back and looking at them, that's something that we really stressed to our kids was, hey, watch this first drive. They're capable of doing some things. And again, it's playoff time. They have absolutely nothing to lose. And if you overlook them, you returning your gear in on Monday.
And I think the Wildcats they had fumble recoveries. I think Nate Banfield had an interception return on that one for a touchdown. So things had to go right for the Wildcats there in that game to get things rolling. Looking at that El Dorado Springs defense, again, still the same thing we saw a month ago, running that 4-4, like to run through or blitz up the middle a little bit. That's where most of the pressure comes. They do have some size up front. They're gonna get physical with you. But that second level plays a little bit deep. From what I can see, has a little bit of a difficult time getting to the edge. However, in that first meeting, the Bulldogs did hold Warsaw to under 200 yards rushing, and the Wildcats didn't have a single player break the century mark. I think I've got that. I kept it. So Gage, I think, had 71 yards. He was the leading rusher. Tayton had 60, and then Nick had 23. So that's a far cry from those big numbers we talked about here just a minute ago. But the Wildcats actually only put up 258 total yards in that game. So what does the offense have to do differently this week for the Wildcats to make sure that they do see a week 11?
A couple of little things, and again, just carrying over from previous weeks, which we can't stress it enough. Get going early. That first game, and again, they had the ball first, but they ate up 9 minutes of that first quarter. We ran 3 plays in that first half, and then in the first quarter, punted it away. And so, 1 quarter off the board, and there you are. Now, unfortunately, that next series, they got that pick and went pick 6. We got on the board, and we kind of got things rolling. But they're struggling some, but they play physical up front. They have skill guys on the back end. I mean, they make you drive. They're not giving up just a ton of big plays. So again, it's just being consistent with what we do. And again, that field or that game, we were fortunate. Our offense did have a short field a lot, but right before half there, if I remember right, we got down to the 1 and didn't punch it in. Just ran out of time. We ran out of timeouts, and so it's capitalizing on little things like that can knock a team out early, but you can't let them hang around and linger around because again, they're practicing all week. They're trying to win. They want to come in and get an upset, and so just those things are what we had talked about, and just again, carrying over from from what we've done in weeks prior. And the nice thing, we don't have the homecoming distraction this week. So, but yeah, there's not huge adjustments to be made, but a lot of little things.
Right. So it's do or die time this week. Wildcats in the Class 2 District 5 opening round. At this point in the season, it's win or go home. It's win or you're moving on to basketball or wrestling. So anyway, we'll be back to wrap things up here right after this.
Hawthorne Bank supports our community. We also support our schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. Today I'm here with my friends, Coach Burdick with the Warsaw Youth Football League, and Coach Boyer. He is the athletic director for the Warsaw schools. Coach Burdick, what do you do with the money that we use for sponsorship?
We use it to purchase gear and repair gear and to purchase new jerseys.
And Coach Boyer, we've worked together on a few things. What do we work together on?
We've worked on the sponsorship for our scoreboard. In addition to, we do our Warsaw basketball tournament and our Warsaw wrestling tournament.
And through sports, our young people will learn the basics of the sport. They also learn to keep good grades, and they also have learned to build good character. When you are a customer of Hawthorne Bank, you are also supporting your community and the high school. Come open your account today.
One, two, three.
Gotta love Warsaw!
We do.
Hawthorne Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
And we're back for this week's Coaches Show, Week 10. Wildcats taking on El Dorado Springs. That game's at home. It's the first round of Class 2 District 5 play. But before that one, last Friday night, varsity volleyball, they lost in the first round of districts. I think they took on Russellville. Their season now done. I don't remember what the overall season record was, but that doesn't matter. Season's done. Saturday, youth football wrapped everything up last weekend, Saturday and Sunday, but youth football, flag, that's where you're engaged. Tell me how those guys did.
They won quite a few games. Like I said, we got 3 teams going there. We went pretty far into the playoffs. They ended up winning it all, but very, very successful again. And awesome we're able to have, like I said, 3 teams. You can remember when we first started this flag program.
I do. Of course, I won the championship.
Right. But from it to grow, we just had 1 team that first year, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, and so for it to grow and see those kids out, and again, can't, not just flag coaches, but all of our youth coaches, can't thank them enough for all the time and work that they put in and keep those kids out.
Yeah, a lot of kids playing football right now. Like you said, 3 teams. This 3rd and 4th grade group, I believe they had somewhere in the neighborhood of 34 kids.
Yeah,
so
a lot.
I don't know how you're going to manage that when they all get to high school.
Good problem to have.
But 3rd and 4th, actually, they rolled. I think they had a 1-loss regular season, and then ended up taking 2nd after a tough 7-6 loss in the championship game last Sunday. But that 3rd and 4th grade group, a really good group. They're coached by, I think, Dana Banks and Mike Ferguson, and amongst a lot of others I know.
Yeah.
And then the 5th and 6th grade, they failed to advance to the weekend after they had to play in a playing game last Thursday night. And I did go over and watch that one. I drove over to Windsor, took Brett. We went over there and watched those guys, and they took it down to the very end. I don't remember the score. It was
22-21.
Yeah, I think it was a 1-point game.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know it was 1 point.
So they were in it after losing to that same team, I think 34-6 the week before, something like that.
Right.
So really making some advances there. Just not enough weeks left. On Sunday, the Wildcat mountain bike racing team had some good finishes down at Nixa. They raced their final race of the NICA season. They even brought home 2 state champions, and Kira Mustafa and Gabe Noland. So Kira, I believe, a sophomore, I think, and Gabe, is he a freshman? 8th grader?
Gabe, yeah.
So
freshman.
Yes, freshman. Sorry, Gabe. And of course, volleyball season was wrapped up. No JV, no junior high anymore. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't think there was a whole lot going on.
No, there really wasn't. It's just that time of year, that transitioning. Like I said, playoff time.
Us parents really like these weeks.
You breathe easy a little bit. Save
near as
money.
much running.
Save a little money on that gas.
And then Friday night, Wildcats taking on El Dorado Springs, like we've been talking about all show long. Saturday is district cross country. They will run down at Hermitage, and then the state meet is the following Saturday, November 5th. That'll be up at Columbia.
Yep.
Back to football. Comments for this week. Passes are good for the first round of district. There's some details there. What's
Yeah, as far as gate prices and passes, it's week 10. A few years ago, the state said, hey, this is actually, even though it's first round, you can treat this like a regular season game. So all passes and gate prices will remain the same for this first round. After this round, we'll send out the information next week. We got to take care of first round first, but that's when no passes are accepted and price changes. But our tailgates are done. We'll still honor the quarterback club passes, but tailgates are done, and that's what I was telling the boys. Hey, pasta feeds are done. Now we're into the grind, and
we're down to playing football.
And now we're to the point that we worked for all year. So that's just a few adjustments. Nothing real big this week. It's as you advance through, it gets a little bit more tricky.
And I know you coaches always say we're not looking forward, ahead. We're working on 1 week at a time, but us media guys don't work that way. Warsaw taking on El Dorado Springs, the 2 seed, El Dorado, the number 7. The winner of that game will take on the winner of the number 3 seed, Fair Grove, versus number 6 for Sales. On the other side of the bracket, Stockton will take on Skyline. That's a 4-5 matchup. The winner of that one gets the number 1 seed, Lamar. And then, of course, the district championship scheduled to play November 11th. So, and before we go today, I have to ask, Coach, and you've been here before as a player, and I'm going to give you some chills here, but you actually helped guide the Wildcats through a long playoff run back in 01, and that ended with a heartbreaking loss in a state championship game to St. Louis John Burroughs. And I'm sure you know exactly what play was called, and you remember that thing vividly.
Yeah, a little bit.
But you had success in other years too, and we know Coach Morrison has, and Coach Parker has, and everybody on staff, I'd say. But what do you most remember about the playoff atmosphere, and what is the best advice that you can give to your team for this week's game?
A big thing we talk is the one step at a time. We've shared some of those moments and successes that we've had. Not to get down the back of my day train, but we just told them, guys, we didn't sit around talking about going to state. We just talked about this round and this round, and we've talked about it. This time of year, you throw the records out. After this week of football, half the teams in the state will be done playing. And I always remember our coaches telling us that. Hey, Coach Berry, and Coach DePay, and Coach Morrow, Coach Powell, Beck, all of them would be like, hey guys, one more step, and now another half are gone. And then you start realizing you get into an elite group at that point, and the thing that we talk to even our JV guys is say, your JV season's over, all right, now you really, it's a testament to who you are, because how our scout team prepares us can determine how much time they may see on Friday night. We literally just talked about it yesterday in practice, where it's like, hey guys, remember the look you give us gets us prepared. You give us a good look, we're successful early Friday night, then you guys get to see some time. And so just bringing the whole team to it, and then to the seniors, we always remind them, we can ride this thing out as long as you guys want to go as a team. But I think when we told the seniors, hey, let's not have equipment check-in Monday. I think that always hits home to them. It hits home to everybody, but especially those seniors. They don't want to see this thing in. We don't want to see it end, and so it's just kind of putting it in perspective in that way. And again,
it's one of those things like off the paper. It's one of those things that you don't realize it until it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't stress to those guys enough that they've got 4 years to do this, and whether they have aspirations to go on and play at another level or not, but the pride and the feelings that they had in that locker room when they slide on the shoulder pads and put on the helmet, and they walk out to that entrance music, and they go through the tunnel, and they look up and see the video. After that last game, it's gone. Next time you see it is your alumni.
Yeah, you're buying a ticket to get in.
And it costs you. You don't get in free anymore. So that's the thing that I remember is, it's the last, and nobody wants that to be the last, and we certainly don't want it to be for the Wildcats in this class of 2023 on Friday night. So it's the Wildcats back at home again this week for round 1 of the Class 2 District 5 bracket. That kickoff set for 7 p.m. and we hope you can get out to Randy Moore Field as the Wildcats are ready to take you for a ride through the 2022 Michigan Class 2 State Playoffs. But as a reminder, if you can't make it to the game, you can also watch all Wildcats football games live on BCE TV, where Matt Dove and Drew Burdick always look forward to bringing the games straight to your living room. So, thanks for clicking in today. Head Coach Ryan Boyer, thanks for joining us again.
Appreciate it.
I'm Adam Howe, and I am going to the house.
This has been a BCE TV production. Thank you for watching.